Imagine a soldier.
You give godlike powers to everyone, it's going to be chaos. I know a guy. Scott, I've been watching you for a while. I believe everyone deserves a
When Ant-Man hit theaters in 2015, it brought a refreshing new flavor to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, blending superhero spectacle with inventive humor and heartfelt storytelling. Directed by Peyton Reed, the film took on one of Marvel's most unusual heroes, a character capable of shrinking to the size of an insect while retaining the strength of a full-grown man. Instead of following the familiar tone of massive cosmic battles or high-stakes political intrigue, Ant-Man approached its story with a heist movie structure, grounded in the world of crime, redemption, and family. At its core, the film centered on Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, a well-meaning but down-on-his-luck ex-con who finds a chance at redemption through the extraordinary Ant-Man suit. This combination of humor, heart, and inventive action set it apart from other Marvel entries of its time, and marked a turning point for the MCU's tone and storytelling style. Paul Rudd's portrayal of Scott Lang was one of the film's biggest surprises. Known primarily for his comedic roles, Rudd brought charm, wit, and relatability to the character, making Scott an everyman hero in a world filled with gods and super soldiers. His version of Ant-Man wasn't a billionaire genius or a trained assassin, but a man trying to make amends and provide for his daughter, Cassie. This grounded motivation gave the film a strong emotional core and allowed audiences to connect deeply with his journey. Alongside Rudd, Michael Douglas brought gravitas and wisdom to the role of Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, whose invention of the Pym particle became the key to the story. Evangeline Lilly played Hope van Dyne, Hank's intelligent and fierce daughter, whose relationship with both her father and Scott shaped much of the emotional tension in the movie. Their dynamic not only expanded the legacy of Ant-Man, but also hinted at the future of the Wasp, setting up a new generation of heroes within the Marvel Universe. The story of Ant-Man unfolded as a clever blend of science fiction and crime caper. Scott Lang, recently released from prison after serving time for a corporate heist driven by moral intent, found himself struggling to rebuild his life. Desperate to reconnect with his young daughter, but unable to secure stable work, he was lured back into the world of crime by his loyal but quirky friend Lewis, played with scene-stealing energy by Michael P.A. However, what started as a small-time burglary turned into something far more significant when Scott stumbled upon a mysterious suit hidden in an old safe. Unbeknownst to him, the suit belonged to Dr. Hank Pym, who'd been searching for a worthy successor to carry on his mantle. When Scott put on the suit and accidentally shrank down to microscopic size, he was thrown into a breathtaking new world of possibilities and danger, leading him to realize that he could become the hero his daughter believed him to be. The film's villain, Darren Cross, portrayed by Corey Stoll, represented the dark reflection of Pym's scientific legacy. Once Pym's protege, Cross became obsessed with recreating the Pym particle and weaponizing it for profit. His invention, the Yellowjacket suit, mirrored Ant-Man's abilities, but was designed for military use, amplifying its power to lethal levels. Cross's descent into greed and madness created a personal conflict that mirrored the mentor-student dynamic between him and Pym. The tension between science as a force for good and a tool for destruction became one of the film's central themes, underscoring how technology, in the wrong hands, can spiral out of control. When Scott took on the responsibility of wearing the Ant-Man suit, he was not just battling Cross, he was fighting for the right to use his abilities for redemption and hope rather than exploitation. One of the film's standout elements was its visual creativity. The shrinking sequences were unlike anything audiences had seen in a superhero movie before. Using stunning visual effects, The filmmakers transported viewers into a microscopic world filled with unexpected scale and beauty. Everyday objects, bathtubs, briefcases, toy trains were transformed into massive, action-packed arenas. The climactic battle between Ant-Man and Yellowjacket inside Cassie's bedroom became one of the most memorable scenes in the MCU, combining high-stakes tension with childlike humor and inventive choreography. The film's ability to balance spectacle with levity helped it stand out in a genre often dominated by destruction-heavy finales. The contrast between the tiny scale of the fight and the enormous emotional weight behind it gave Ant-Man a unique and playful identity. Ant-Man also succeeded in blending genres seamlessly. It was part superhero adventure, part comedy, and part family drama. The heist narrative gave it structure and momentum, as Scott assembled a ragtag crew to infiltrate Cross's lab and prevent him from selling his dangerous technology. The chemistry between the team members, especially Louis, Dave, and Kurt, brought humor and humanity to the story. Their interactions provided comic relief without undermining the film's emotional stakes. The film's tone reflected Marvel's growing confidence in experimenting with its storytelling approach. Not every hero needed to save the world sometimes. Saving one family could mean just as much. The relationship between Scott Lang and Hank Pym also carried significant emotional depth. Hank's decision to recruit Scott was not just strategic but symbolic. He saw in Scott a man who, like himself, had made mistakes but possessed the heart of a true hero. Through their interactions, Hank confronted his own guilt over the past, particularly the mysterious loss of his wife, Janet Van Dyne. The hints about Janet's disappearance during a mission in the quantum realm added a layer of intrigue that would later become central to the sequels. Meanwhile, Hope's growing involvement in the mission and her eventual training to become the Wasp showcased her evolution from resentment to acceptance, as she began to understand her father's reasons and Scott's sincerity. The emotional thread connecting Scott to his daughter Cassie provided the film's beating heart. Cassie's innocence and unconditional love for her father served as Scott's primary motivation throughout the story. His entire journey was about proving that he could be more than his mistakes, that he could be someone Cassie could be proud of. Their bond humanized the narrative, reminding viewers that behind the shrinking suits and quantum science was a father trying to do right by his child. It's this emotional grounding that made Ant-Man resonate beyond its visual spectacle. While the film delivered big laughs and thrilling action, it was its sincerity that lingered with audiences. From a tonal perspective, Ant-Man arrived at a perfect moment in the MCU timeline. Following massive ensemble films like Avengers, Age of Ultron, this smaller-scale story offered a much-needed change of pace. It reminded audiences that heroism doesn't always have to be about saving the entire planet. Sometimes it's about doing the right thing when no one else will. The film's humor, driven by Paul Rudd's effortless timing and the hilarious storytelling sequences from Michael P.A., created some of the MCU's most quotable and replayable moments. Its balance of comedy and heart made it a film that appealed to both longtime Marvel fans and newcomers alike. Behind the scenes, the making of Ant-Man had its share of challenges. The project had been in development for many years, originally initiated by Edgar Wright, known for his distinct visual style and sharp comedic sensibilities. Although Wright eventually departed the project due to creative differences, much of his influence remained visible in the final product, particularly the film's rhythmic editing, playful tone, and clever visual transitions. Peyton Reed stepped in as director and managed to honor Wright's vision while bringing his own touch of warmth and cohesion to the story. The end result was a film that felt both inventive and emotionally satisfying. bridging the gap between high-concept science fiction and grounded storytelling. Ant-Man's release was met with critical and audience acclaim for its originality, humor, and performances. It proved that even a relatively obscure Marvel character could headline a successful film when treated with care and creativity. The film's success opened the door for further exploration of the quantum realm, setting the stage for its sequels and connecting directly to the larger events of the MCU. Scott Lang's introduction would later become vital to the overarching Avengers storyline, particularly in the events leading up to Endgame. His role as the unlikely hero who understood the quantum realm would prove essential to reversing the catastrophic effects of Thanos' snap, showing how every small act of heroism could have massive consequences. The film also left audiences excited for the future of Hope van Dyne as the Wasp. The mid-credits scene teased her receiving her own suit, symbolizing a new partnership between her and Scott and honoring her mother's legacy. This setup would blossom in later films, giving the Wasp her rightful place alongside Ant-Man as a co-lead. It was one of Marvel's first steps toward a more balanced representation of its heroes, introducing a female lead with equal strength, intelligence, and purpose. In the end, Ant-Man 2015 stood out as one of Marvel's most inventive and heartfelt origin stories. Its mix of comedy, science, and sincerity turned what could have been a strange concept into one of the MCU's most beloved entries. With its blend of heist thrills, emotional storytelling, and unforgettable performances, the film reminded audiences that even the smallest hero can make a world of difference. It wasn't about the size of the power, but the strength of the heart behind it, and that message, wrapped in humor and imagination, made Ant-Man a defining moment in Marvel's cinematic journey.